This is a Fatal 4 podcast.
Shuffle those feet from side to side. It's time for Squared Circle Strafe, the premier video game podcast of the Fatal 4 Podcasting Network. I am your host, Pro Wrestling Noah, aka Noah Stewart, and it's time to talk about video games. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good start to your week. I've had a pretty good weekend myself. Why the movies? Twitter is ablaze with to film Twitter, that is. The event of the fall, I guess. We're in the fall now. Megalopolis. Megalopolis. Francis Ford Coppola's big return to theaters came out this weekend, and boy, is it a movie. It's a whole lot of movie. And I don't mean that in its runtime. It's like 2 hours, 15, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. It's not like a terribly long movie, but boy, does it feel big. And it's got some interesting stuff going on. I feel like it's hard to recommend if you like cinema, like capital C cinema, then go see it and be prepared to raise your eyebrow more than a handful of times. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I saw it. I feel like it's hard to talk about. Everything about it is so strange, but like has to be seen to believe. I don't know. Megalopolis. Like I keep wanting to say Metalocalypse, but it's not. Megalopolis. If you know, you know. But I also saw a horror movie that came to Shudder this week, the horror streaming service, Oddity. The movie Oddity, which was pretty cool. I thought maybe a little overhyped. I heard people saying that it was like the best horror movie of the year, which in a year that The Substance came out, I don't think you can say anymore because The Substance. But I enjoyed it. I would definitely, if you were a horror fan, I would recommend it. But yeah, nice weekend watching movies, hanging out. I played a lot of video games this weekend. Didn't have a lot of plans this weekend. I love a weekend with no plans, right? Just get to hang out and do my thing. And how about I do my thing on this podcast and talk to you about some video game news. There wasn't a lot of, I would say, traditional news this week. Like, just like stuff happening, but boy, did companies announce things this week. Sony on Tuesday did their state of play, which I guess is, I feel like Sony has been spreading out their, like, what do you call the showcases lately? And I guess like the state of play as they do it is meant to be like kind of smaller chunks of announcements. But I feel like it just kind of leaves, like, people have big expectations whenever, companies do these online showcases now. And I feel like the expectations just need to start coming down for those because like it used to be you would get like one, maybe two big showcases every year, and there'd be like a ton of, a lot of content to be excited about. And now they're just kind of spread out throughout the year, and we don't get as much, bangers per one of these. They're kind of spread out along a bunch of them throughout the seasons. So this is the one, I guess, for the fall that they're doing. But there was some pretty exciting stuff in here. They kicked it off by showing off some new content for Astro Bot coming soon, which is pretty exciting. They have some speed run levels, which that game's got good running around. And I will say, spoilers for the games that I played this week section of the podcast. I beat Astro Bot this week, and I did all the challenge levels in that game. And boy, it feels good to be very efficient at the running around in Astro Bot. So I think the speed run levels will be like an extra layer of like fun challenge for that game. And I believe it was Astro's Playroom for when the PS5 launched had leaderboards, like online leaderboards, and these will have that. So I think that'll be a fun thing to do for that. They're also introducing some special new bots to go capture in the game or save, rescue from, PlayStation peril. They're adding recent PlayStation stars. The lady from Stellar Blade, Eve, I believe is her name, is going to be there. And also a Helldiver from Helldivers 2 were showcased in the trailer. There might be more than that coming, but that's what they showed in the trailer. But that's exciting stuff. They also showed a new game from Moonhead Studios called The Midnight Walk. This is the studio that brought you... what was the name of that game? Oh, right. It's not the same developer. It's people from that studio made it. New developer, Moonhead Studios. The people who brought from the minds that brought you Lost in Random, this Steam listing says. Also coming to Steam, but PS5 is where this was featured. The Midnight Walk, a very neat looking like stop motion game. It appears to be. I don't know. It looks crazy. It looks so cool. Just it like stop motion in the way that it looks like it's animated on the twos, kind of has that jittery motion to everything. It's in first person. That it looks crazy, but it can be played on PS5 and apparently in PSVR 2, which was in this showcase, I feel like a lot, which is weird considering that before this showcase, it really felt like Sony was not really that interested in PSVR 2 lately. But this might, be a good, reason to get one, perhaps, if you want to be freaked out and stop motion hell. Speaking of hell, they also revealed a new game. Well, actually, apparently this has been shown before, but this is the first time I saw it. It was a game called Hell Is Us from Rogue Factor. It looks to be a kind of a, I hate to banter around the phrase Souls-like, or the label Souls-like, because I feel like that can be applied to a lot of things these days, but it does appear to be a, action game where you're fighting one big monster or a group of monster-looking guys at a time with very deliberate combat. It looks like one of those, folks. And this one, I don't know, the look seems like pretty unique and distinct. It's got these humanoid monster creatures that have like hollow faces, and they're all opaque white, but they can like morph into other things and shapes. Your character is kind of this almost like Death Stranding aesthetic, like kind of, raincoat hooded character. And one of the cool things in the trailer it showed was like you did a jump that kind of took you up into the air with a drone that looked pretty neat. I don't know. It looks, amongst this type of game, it looks like it's got a pretty slick look. So I feel like this will be one, to kind of keep an eye out for. Metro Awakening, which is a PSVR 2 game VR game set in, the Metro franchise of games. Not something that I'm personally too excited about, but, for the VR heads out there, might be pretty cool. There's this game, Arc-Age Chronicles, which I feel like the trailer and even like the listing online does kind of a poor job of telling you what this thing is, because from aesthetics alone, it feels like kind of what I was talking about with Hell Is Us, kind of this, very deliberate combat against like a enemy or a group of enemies. But apparently this is the sequel to an MMO that was just called Arc-Age. And I think this was initially supposed to be Arc-Age 2, but is now Arc-Age Chronicles and is kind of a retooling of their MMO. Whereas before it was kind of a World of Warcraft like situation, but is now something more akin to maybe a Destiny or a Warframe, where you take your crew or your guild or whatever and do more level based, structure to combat and everything. So I don't know, that visually it looks neat. As far as what the game is, I'm still a little confused by, but I guess more will be revealed as that comes out. They showed a trailer for Pal World coming to PS5, which is a little strange given that they were Pocket Pair, the developer behind Pal World, was sued by Nintendo last week. And they're still moving forward with, hey, advertising, we're coming to PS5. So I don't know if that's, I guess the deals were already in place for this to, be showcased here. But it also feels a little, bravado confident about whether, they feel good going into this lawsuit. They said they'd fight. So I don't know, that all the drama coming out of that whole thing is going to be crazy. We also got a trailer for Lunar Remastered Collection, which has the 2 Lunar games that came out on the PlayStation being remastered, coming to the PS5, probably on Steam too, I would imagine. But and this is remastered in the sense it doesn't appear to be a 2D HD remaster in the same way that something like a Dragon Quest 3 is getting. It appears to be more of just a straight up, kind of more of a, I would say a Final Fantasy pixel remaster kind of situation, where it appears to be the original game, but just kind of gussied up and, looking a little sharper, a little prettier. Which is good because those games have classically been hard to get a hold of. I think even when it came out, it was something that they didn't make a ton of because they knew the audience was not that huge. And those games have been pretty expensive on the secondhand market since then. So it's nice to have a very accessible version of those games to play on modern hardware now. We also got a look at, they are bringing, this one's weird. So Sonic Generations Cross Shadow, which is a remastered port of Sonic Generations, the game, what you play as, modern 3D Sonic and classic 2D Sonic, going through the history of Sonic the Hedgehog games, basically. And it's a HD remaster of that game that they are also adding Shadow to as a playable character. And what they showed in the state of play is that they are adding a DLC pack to the game where you play as not just Shadow, but Shadow from the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie that's coming out later this year, voiced by Keanu Reeves. I played Sonic Generations. I would say it's probably one of the more enjoyable 3D Sonic games. I did not necessarily think that I needed to get this HD remaster. I mean, I want to play as Shadow, but I don't know if I want to play as Shadow that bad. But I might want to play as Keanu Reeves movie Shadow that bad. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when it comes out. I might let you know. I might talk about it on this podcast. We'll see. They also showed Fantasian Neo Dimension. Japanese RPGs have the best names. It's coming to PS5 December 5th. Fantasian, for those of you who don't know, was a game by the original director of Final Fantasy, like original Final Fantasy that he made for phones. It was like one of the premier games to come out for Apple Arcade back when they launched that. And it's a JRPG, like a turn-based JRPG, kind of, traditional top-down run around the world, and then turn-based, menu-based combat. But it has a kind of like risk-reward mechanic where when you encounter random battles, you can choose to kind of bank and skip those battles. And then when you decide to, kind of pop off into a battle proper, it takes all of like those banked encounters and puts them into one large encounter. It sounds like a pretty unique, interesting mechanic for JRPGs, but I don't really feel like playing that kind of game on a phone. So it's nice that and I'm sure that sentiment was shared. So it's nice that they're bringing that to traditional consoles, kind of giving a wider audience base to give it a shot. And that's coming December 5th. We also got a new look at Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Just some new gameplay for that, looking like Dragon Age. People who are very excited about that, I'm sure, will be looking forward to that. We got a new expansion for Alan Wake 2, The Lake House, which I think so. The last one they put out was kind of a anthology collection of like DLC featuring different characters in the Alan Lake-averse, kind of like having their own adventures, little bite-sized adventures. But this one, it looks to be, so it's a location called The Lake House, which for people, this is some, Remedy universe lore. But I believe the Lake House is a facility controlled by the Federal Bureau of Control that is located at the lake where the events of Alan Wake 1 and I guess 2 took place. It's like the evil spooky lake that what's got all the Alan Wake, darkness happening in there. So I think this is a kind of pivotal place in the Alan Wake lore. So this will probably, be a very exciting thing for Alan Wake heads out there. They showed a new version of PlayStation VR 2 for Hitman World of Assassination, which I'm confused because I feel like they've done this a lot. Like, I feel like there's like at least 3 different versions of VR that you can play in Hitman. So I don't know what's like necessarily different about this one, but I like Hitman. You can run around in first person. That's neat. This is a big one. This is a big one, folks. Right here. Here we go. You ready? Here we go. Open up those ears. Here we go. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, 1 and 2 remastered. Big deal. This one was, I believe, kind of the news about this one broke before the State of Play proper played, but is nonetheless very exciting. Soul Reaver, for those who don't know, was a kind of almost like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time-esque game for the PlayStation 1, where you play as Azrael. Azazel? Raziel, that's it. I got there. Raziel. Who's like this cool, like, mouth hooded figure. He opens the mouth, he sucks souls, he reaves the souls, rather. A very, like, I would say, like, cult classic for the PlayStation 1 and its sequel, Soul Reaver 2 for the PlayStation 2. Again, like weirdly kind of like nice of Sony between this and Lunar Remastered, having like these updated versions of these games you can play on modern hardware. It's nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I never actually played the Soul Reaver games. I had like a demo of the first one that I played a lot, so I have a weird kind of nostalgia for it. So I'm looking forward to actually getting a chance to play those. It looks like it is like just like a straight up remaster of those original games, but with kind of I would say in the way that the Spyro and Crash games were remastered, where it's like the bones of the original games are there, but they have like really nice kind of modern looking textures now. So very excited for that one. We got kind of a reminder that Fear the Spotlight is coming in about a month, October 22nd. That's a kind of PlayStation 1 aesthetic inspired survival horror game from Blumhouse. This like initiative by Blumhouse, the horror movie studio that is now getting into game publishing. I'm looking forward to that one in a big way. We got a look at a game called Towers of Agashba. Towers of Agashba. Agashba. Towers of Agashba. And the early access for the game is coming in November. It looks like a kind of open world survival game with like kind of an interesting look. It's got like, a big, open world with kind of like an alien looking terrain, very strange looking, fauna and, plants and animals and stuff. Fauna. But I don't know. Yeah, it's coming out in early access. I think you can like team up with friends. It's got a Breath of the Wild glider in it. I don't know. It looks neat. I haven't really heard anyone talk about it, but it seems kind of neat. We got an announcement that Fortnite is getting a split screen mode, which is kind of really cool. You and a friend can now play Fortnite on the couch at the same time, which is neat. They also announced a Fortnite skinned DualSense controller, which looks pretty slick. I kind of maybe want to get those. We also got to look at a new Dynasty Warriors Origins. Dynasty Warriors hits the new generation, and hey, it looks like Dynasty Warriors. So if you like, the Musos, the king of Musos is back, baby. January 17th. So coming sooner than I thought. So that'll be coming soon. We also got another look at Monster Hunter Wilds. They officially announced that Horizon Zero Dawn remaster that we were talking about last week. That is, people have thoughts about that one. Even I, as a fan of that game, kind of like, okay, that kind of unnecessary. And also, they kind of were a little scummy about it. I think they raised the price of the original, like PS4 version of that, because you can upgrade to this version for like $10, I think, or maybe not $10, maybe a discounted price. Don't hold me to that, but they're being a little weird about that. But we got a announcement for Stellar Blade. They're adding some new outfits, folks. Some new outfits for Eve. They also got an official soundtrack that you can buy. And hey, if you are a fan of the ladies what are scantily clad and have swords, you may also be a fan of Nier Automata. And boy, do I have good news for you, because they're doing a collab. It appears that 2B from Nier Automata might be coming to Stellar Blade. They weren't specific, I felt like, but that appears to be what is happening. So, game fans of games like that, rejoice. Best of both worlds. PS5 Chroma collection was also announced. A collection of plastic covers, what you can put on your PS5 to kind of give it a shiny, glossy finish to the outside. So, when you're looking at your PS5 all, glowing and humming under your television or wherever you put it on your entertainment center, you gotta have a new look to it. And then their one last thing for this whole showcase was the announcement for the sequel to Ghosts of Tsushima, Ghosts of Yote, which it looks very pretty, this Ghosts of Yote. The original, Ghosts of Tsushima looked very pretty, but it's on the PS5. Now, I'm sure the footage that they showed was really showing off, possibly the capabilities of the PS5 Pro. I'm sure it'll look very good on the PS5 Pro. But the big thing coming out is also the music that they were using for this thing sounded very kind of American Western inspired. So it might, have kind of that vibe going on in the game. But kind of the big thing that, the most obnoxious people online won't shut up about is that this game, now, instead of starring, I believe his name was Jin Sakai, the original protagonist of Ghost of Tsushima, it now stars a lady samurai, which neat. Also voiced by Erika Ishii, who I believe they voiced some characters in Dragon Age, either previously or are going to be in the new Dragon Age. And they're also on Dropout, the comedy streaming service Dropout. They're on a bunch of stuff over there. I'm a big fan of Erika Ishii. I've liked their previous work, so exciting that they are getting to voice the main character of a big Sony franchise like this. I believe they're also the mocap for it, the mocap performance for it as well. So good for Erika Ishii, and also I feel like very exciting for fans of Ghosts of Tsushima. The people really like that first game, so more of that coming seems like. Oh, and it's coming 2025, which I feel like is soon, given that they're kind of just now. I think it's been already said that they were working on another game, but hey, the time from announcement to release seems closer than you would think. So Ghosts of Yote coming in 2025. And then that was all the stuff for Sony. But then we also got a little bit of stuff coming out of Xbox. They were at the Tokyo Game Show toward the back half of this past week, and it wasn't anything super groundbreaking there either. I would say even way kind of less groundbreaking than even that Sony State of Play was. But there was some stuff. They showed a new trailer for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, a kind of HD look at I think what Revolver Ocelot is going to look like in that game. They showed a My Hero Academia collab coming to Overwatch 2. StarCraft 1 and 2 is coming to Game Pass, which is exciting. I've never played any of the StarCraft games, so I feel like at least StarCraft 2. I from what I've seen, the campaigns in StarCraft 2 seem pretty cool, and it's been a long time since I've played a RTS. Actually, Age of Mythology that just came to Game Pass. I did play a lot of Age of Mythology back in the day, so I like RTSs. I should give that a shot. Speaking of games that I really like, they showed a trailer for this new game that looks very much up my alley called Tanuki Pawns Summer, where you play as a little Tanuki guy, little raccoon-esque looking guy riding a bike who is also a postal deliveryman. And you're driving around on your bike, delivering postage to, people in this village, but also it's got kind of a Tony Hawk pro skater style control scheme or I guess maybe more of a Matt Hoffman's pro BMX, perhaps, where you're on a bike and you're doing grinds on rails and stuff. I don't know. It looks neat, but also cozy, which is a place I like to be. So I will definitely keep my eye on Tanuki Pond's Summer. We also got a look at a game called Threads of Time, which is a 2D HD JRPG. What looks like a very, very inspired by Chrono Trigger. It looks like, kind of in the same lane as something like a Sea of Stars. And so it's the 2D HD thing. So it looks a lot like something like the, upcoming Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remaster, or even something like Octopath Traveler. But the animation in this game looks kind of crazy. Like, it looks like there's a lot more happening in the background, like animation of the battle system fights, and the camera is really moving around in some dynamic ways during these fights. It looks slick as hell. So Threads of Time, JRPG fans, keep tabs on this one. They also showed a kind of like developer diary for a game called Fragpunk, which we've heard before. I believe we've seen Fragpunk during, I think it was like the Summer Games Fest. But they are announcing that the beta is coming to Xbox in October. So just, pretty soon here. And Fragpunk, for those of you who don't know, is a kind of a hero-based shooter. Characters what got skills, but also there's a deck building element to the game. And also the look of it is pretty neat, where it's kind of got like these kind of comic booky automatopoeia flourishes to a lot of stuff. So I don't know. We've talked on this podcast about how the hero-based shooter is kind of, oversaturated perhaps, and there's a lot of these coming out. But I don't know, Fragpunk, I don't want to say that it's going to be this big runaway success or anything, but I feel like it has the potential to maybe find a niche fan base, kind of in the way that the Finals has. It feels like it's maybe unique enough to at least, foster some sort of player base behind it. So Fragpunk, I feel like, might be one to keep an eye on. They also showed off a new game. Some of these names this week are crazy. We got Synduality, as in like synchronous, but also a duality. Synduality, Echo of Ada, coming in January 2025. It is they refer to it as a PvPvE third-person extraction shooter with AI companions and custom mechs. So, third-person extraction shooter, but also like everyone's in a mech. Honestly, like the gameplay looked like it kind of reminded me of something like Exoprimal, the Capcom game, like squad-based shooter where you shot all the velociraptors that were coming out of wormholes and stuff. This kind of reminded me of that a little bit, where like you have your squad of, dudes like fighting a bunch of like, AI controlled enemies, but also there's a team there competing, fighting all of, the AI enemies. I don't know. It seems interesting. I don't know. Again, like Fragpunk, I think this might have like, the potential to have a niche audience, perhaps. They also showed a new game that's actually out now. I believe it came out as of they were showing it off in this showcase. A game called All You Need Is Help, which is a very cute looking co-op puzzle game where you are playing as a bunch of like very fluffy, I guess the best way I could describe it is tetraminos, the blocks from Tetris, kind of looking like, puzzle pieces, but they have like cute little faces, and you're kind of moving around this environment to solve puzzles and like come together and apart in ways that help you solve those puzzles. I don't know. It looks neat, and I think it's out on Xbox and might be on Game Pass. I don't know. I'll have to check. It might be on Game Pass. And then they showed a new trailer for upcoming survival horror game Slitterhead, which is a fun name to say, Slitterhead, from the original director of Silent Hill. I am very excited about this one. It bills itself as a survival horror game, but it looks way more action focused, like something more like a Devil May Cry or maybe like a Dead Rising even, perhaps. The controls kind of look Dead Rising-ish. But the kind of main gimmick of this game is that you are a kind of like demon monster soul that can possess people. So like you are this soul, and you can possess NPCs in the game, like just like people walking around the city, to then like splurt gross muscly tendrily weapons out of these people to then fight monsters with. It looks sick as hell. I'm very excited to get my hands on this thing, and it's coming soon. It's November 8th, so we'll be able to play that one soon. And then they showed off a JRPG with mechs. There's seems to be a decent amount of those in this thing. A game called The Starbites Taste of the Desert. Looks like a kind of pretty cute anime looking JRPG, turn-based. It's got mechs. What more could you want? And that was pretty much everything kind of worth talking about from that Tokyo Game Show Xbox showcase. Some neat little stuff in there. And aside from companies announcing stuff, we also got some other stuff that happened this week. A weird thing happening with God of War Ragnarok. It was released on PC, but Sony did the thing again that people really didn't like when they tried to do with Helldivers 2, where they, in order to play the game, you had to sign up with a like PSN account on your PC, which PSN is not available in select countries, so some people end up buying this game on Steam and then are not able to play it because they are not able to, sign up for PSN because it's not available in their country. So that part is weird. But I think the other part is that capital G gamers are upset by this because it's just like another step in logging in to play this game, and it's also just like it feels like another step removed of not actually owning the software, which like a lot of software we don't actually own these days. We own licenses in order to access that software, but we don't actually own that software, which is why a lot of people are, I feel like, flocking back to physical media in some ways these days, not just with games but with movies as well. But so people are upset about that. And then a fan made a mod for God of War Ragnarok that let you bypass the PSN login, which people were downloading and using. And then it seems like that fan may have gotten a cease and desist behind the scenes from Sony, because then they pulled the mod. So that is no longer available for download, at least officially, by that fan. Weird situation. Weird situation going on there. I feel like stuff like that is going to keep happening as Sony insists that people sign up for a PSN account to play their games on PC, which, they are wanting to do because they want people's information. They want you to be in their ecosystem. But that is not something that, capital G gamers on capital P PCs are traditionally willing to do. So we will see how that tug of war continues to happen. And then the other big thing that happened this week was Ubisoft announced that Assassin's Creed Shadows will no longer be coming out this fall. It will instead be delayed into, I believe, February of 2025. And they are citing, they say, following learnings from Star Wars Outlaws. I think in regards to, they are not super pleased with the way that Star Wars Outlaws performed commercially for them. So they are deciding to delay the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows to maybe, tweak some stuff so that it appears more appealing to people, to people, I guess, very familiar with Ubisoft games. I don't know. It's weird. And also, we will have more to say about this coming to a podcast feed near you if you are a Patreon member of the Fatal 4 Podcast Network. Either as of the release of this episode or sometime later. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Paul. We'll see. But we have a episode dropping on our Patreon feed, Square Circle Strafe Multiplayer, where I will be talking with Paul Griffin about Star Wars Outlaws and kind of the overall frontier of Ubisoft lately. they're kind of in a weird position, and I think Paul has some opinions, so you will get to hear all of that on our Patreon. So sign up for that if you haven't. It's a neat little thing where you get extra content and access to our fun Discord. But that is all the news I have for this week. Why don't we take a break, and when we come back, I will tell you about the video games I've been playing this week. All right, folks, we are back, and I am here to tell you that I did it. I finished Astro Bot, and let me tell you, oh boy, is that a good video game. And I feel like I can say, after having finished it, that it is maybe top 5 best 3D platformers ever. It's definitely we're talking Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Odyssey. We're talking that level. Oh my god, I haven't enjoyed a 3D platformer like this since Mario Odyssey. I mean, they don't make games like that a ton anymore outside of Mario, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of indie games that I feel are kind of filling that space because AAA is not the most interested in making these types of games anymore. But I am so glad that Team Asobi is, and that's kind of as I finished it up, and as I've been kind of thinking about it, it's I'm so glad that a game like this exists, and especially it's so weird that a game like this is coming from Sony, who really seems to only care about these big narrative heavy games that they desperately want to turn into other types of media, as well as games as service. We just check it off on your bingo cards, folks. I'm bringing up Concord again, but stuff like Concord or upcoming Marathon, just all these different live service games they have in the pipeline. And then they just had Team Asobi make a fun ass video game. Like, it's just like the most video game you could think of. A fun 3D platformer where you're just a little guy running around saving his friends and celebrating the legacy of the PlayStation. But my God. So, and we're going to get into some spoiler territory here. So if you don't want spoilers for Astro Bot, and of course, like when I talk spoilers, it's not really narrative spoilers because there isn't really much of a narrative to speak of in Astro Bot, because, you know, the big green alien crashed your PS5 spaceship with all your friends on it, and now you have to go save your friends, and the big green alien and his big robot animal friends are being bullies. That's the narrative. That's the narrative thrust that Astro Bot has to propel him through this game. But most of the spoilers come from these great, just like joyous moments of nostalgia. And specifically, there's some sections, it's after you beat bosses, that a particularly special PlayStation friend will show up, and you do an entire level based on that bot, where they have like Nathan Drake from Uncharted shows up, and you go and play a whole level where you're in a jungle, and Nathan Drake gives Astro Bot a gun, and you shoot all these slime aliens with a little, and it's like a little pop gun, but like that's fun. There's Paul Griffin, listen up. There's a Horizon Zero Dawn inspired level where Aloy gives Astro Bot a bow and arrow, and you like, when you aim down sights with the bow and arrow, it slows down and you get to shoot all the guys in cool slow-mo. Get to climb the tall neck, right? The big satellite dish head tall neck thingy. It's so much fun. It's all so good. And then like they have the big franchise stuff like that, but then you also have weird deep cuts, like Mr. Mosquito is a bot in this game. The Mad Maestro, for people who remember Mad Maestro for the PlayStation 2, of which I am one of them. There's just so many little details. Oh, so there's also, as you are collecting coins in the game, you can then use those coins at a vending machine, or it's like a gotcha machine, little capsule toys, and you unlock all of these either like accessories for some of your bot friends, or new skins for your controller ship, or outfits. And I feel, so I got, one of the early outfits I got was Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank. So I wore that for a little bit. And then I think the next one that I unlocked was Cat from Gravity Rush. If anyone remembers Gravity Rush for the PlayStation Vita, which is an excellent game. So I ran around as Cat for a while. Then it like really got in my zone where I unlocked Wanderer from Shadow of the Colossus as an outfit. And then the ultimate one, which I played like the last third of this game as, was Eco, the little horned boy from the titular game Eco. And I just ran around because that is, as I have said in the Strafe Shuffle section of Noah's favorite games, I have stated that Eco is my favorite video game. So with no brainer, I had to run around as Eco. But God, just what a tremendous video game this is. I cannot say enough great things about it. I did all of the challenge missions. I got all 301 bots. I did the special big golden statue challenge mission as well. So really the only thing that's left for me to do is platinum the game, which I feel like I probably am going to. It's actually not, from what I've seen, most people who end up playing the game do end up platinuming it if they're really, really into it. And I think all the stuff that I have to do in order to platinum it now is just like really specific things in certain levels that, like, honestly, I would just like more reasons to keep playing Astro Bot. So I'm definitely, but by next week you may hear me say, hey, I platinumed it. So definitely love that game. And then like other stuff, that's mostly what I've been playing this past week. Messed around with a kind of a not super recent game. I think it came out last year, a game called Grapple Dog. Maybe it was 2 years ago. It's an indie game. He plays a little like anthropomorphic dog guy. He's got a grappling hook. It's side-scrolling platformer. The grapple controls in Grapple Dog they're interesting because it's not as zippy as you would like a grappling hook usually is in a video game, where like you swing it into something and then you like zoop to where you hooked it in. It's more like, I guess maybe like Spider-Man's webs, where like you hook it into the wall, then you can swing, you can like rock back and forth to swing. It's really very momentum based. Like the amount of swing you get from like an initial hook really depends on if you're like going. And if you just like ratchet up into the ceiling, you'll just kind of like be parked there and you have to work up the momentum rocking back and forth. So I feel like it takes maybe a little bit to get used to those controls, but once you get into it, it's like a pretty, bit bopping game. And it has the like, modern 2D Mario thing of having like, you like collect the 3 coins, like 3 special coins in a 2D Mario level these days. This has like 5 purple rubies that you need to collect. And I feel like it's like maybe like a couple too many. I like 3 instead of 5. That's just a lot of secrets to go after. I feel like I spend a lot of time in one single level trying to find those secrets, and then just like once the little tracker says like, oh, you missed one, like this is the 3rd one in this level, not the 2nd one, you missed the 2nd one, I go, okay, and I just go and finish the level. But it's, yeah, Grapple Dog's like a fun little thing. I think I looked it up on how long to beat. It's like, I think it's like 6 to 8 hours or something long. It's longer than I thought it would be. But the people that made Grapple Dog came out with a sequel that came out, I think, earlier this past month, and I thought it looked interesting, and I wanted to check out the first one. The first one was on sale for like $350, so. But it's a little thing I have fun with. My biggest issue with it is that I wish it had cloud save support, because it weirdly doesn't. And I would love to be able to play it on my computer and then go and play it on my Steam Deck in bed. But I am not able to carry over progress, which stinks. And I feel like that's a really rare problem these days. Like I feel like most games have that figured, the Steam cloud save thing figured out, but not this for some reason. But so I'm just playing it on my PC, having a pretty like fun, decent time with that. But that's pretty much all I've been playing this week. Why don't we take one more quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a special little 3rd segment. Be a little bit. Hey folks, you enjoy the Fatal 4 talking about some real nerdy stuff? You enjoy me, Pro Wrestling Noah, talking about video games? Well, what if I could talk with Fatal 4 members talking about video games? Me and Paul Griffin just did that on the inaugural episode of Squared Circle Strafe multiplayer that you can get access to through our new Patreon tier, Fatal 4 Plus.
That's right. We talked a ton about Star Wars Outlaws, actually, and why does everybody hate Ubisoft?
And how much we love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and various mini games, and especially stuff like Queen's Blood and Paul's beloved Kessel Sabak in Star Wars.
I would win a Millennium Falcon if I was playing this in real life.
Yeah, watch out, Lando Calrissian. Hear all of that whole conversation, which I think was a lot of fun that we just had, if you support us on Patreon. And you also get access to that stuff, various other Fatal 4 podcasts like the Vince McMahon docu-series episode that we're about to do, potentially episodes, and access to our Discord.
So just sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/fatal4pod, and sign up for the Fatal 4 Plus tier. It's $5 a month. You get all that, plus the bonus shows, and then some. And we got a ton on the way, so come join us.
All right, everybody, get back in here because it's time for the third segment. That's right, it's time for the Strafe Shuffle. This week for the segment, I thought, it's the last day of September. Maybe by the time most people are hearing this, I think this one's going to be going up late Monday. But by the time you're hearing this, it will be October, which means it's time for spooky stuff to happen. I've already been watching a lot of spooky movies, but I don't know. For some reason, I think because Astro Bot was really taking up a lot of my time and stuff like Star Wars Outlaws. I've been kind of putting off playing the spooky games this year, but I think I'm really about to dive into some stuff here. And I thought I'd give a little preview of like some of the stuff I have lined up to hopefully get around to in the month of October for some spooky games. I am currently in the middle of a playthrough of Resident Evil Revelations. I believe I've talked about it on this podcast before. I actually went back and played some of it this past week. Still having a decent time with that. I think I'm about halfway through. Really want to like see the end of that. That's one that's been in my backlog for a long time. So playing that, I want to say like 2/3 of the way through Persona 3 Reload, which I kind of count as a spooky game. Like there's stuff happening at midnight. There's spooky demons and stuff. I feel like it meets the criteria. But the big ones that I am hoping to get to is the indie 3D platformer Pumpkin Jack that I've always seen in the Steam store. And I finally pulled the trigger on picking it up because I think it was on sale for like $6.50 or something. So I plopped that into my Steam library, and that looks really cool. You're like a Grim Reaper-y dude with a big scythe, pumpkin head, slicing up enemies, jumping on platforms. The look of it looks pretty neat. So definitely wanted to give that a shot. Okay, this one's embarrassing. Feel free to take away my gamer card for this one. But one of my biggest like holes in my like gaming, credibility is I have never played Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And I feel like every single year when it gets around to being Halloween time, I'm like, okay, this is the time. This is the year that I play Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And then I end up getting distracted with other things. And I really like, Metroidvania style games. I've played, I played Super Metroid. I love one of my favorite games of all time. One of my favorite Game Boy Advance games is Metroid Zero Mission, the remake of the original the remake of the original Metroid. And I also played a decent amount of the Game Boy Advance Castlevanias, like Dawn of Sorrow and Harmony of Dissonance, but never played the big boy. Never played the one that everyone, like the one that all of these games are pretty much influenced by, like Super Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So I really need to just put time aside, sit myself down, force myself to. It's essential playing, right? It's an essential game that I feel like it's for academic reasons, and also because I know that it's like a kick-ass game that I need to play. I need to see what that Alucard guy is all about. What's up with that Frankenstein? There's a Frankenstein in it, right? I know there's a Frankenstein at least in the NES Castlevanias. I played all those. I got cred. I played Castlevania 1 and Castlevania 3. Castlevania 2 looks a little too archaic, perhaps, by today's standards. Never played Simon's Quest. But, I mean, Dracula's Curse is great. Played some of the was it Super Castlevania 4? I beat that game. I even played the Game Boy one, the second Castlevania on Game Boy, Belmont's Revenge. That's a good game. So I played a lot of the like non-Metroidy Castlevanias, but I need to play the one that spawned the, what Castlevania would really be known for. I feel like Symphony of the Night is the Castlevania game. The magnum opus, if you will. So definitely want to check that out. Then some other classic stuff that I never really played all of. Because I've played the original Resident Evil before. Like Resident Evil 1. I played through it a couple times. I think I played through it as Jill and Chris. I played all that for the first time on the Vita and really got into I think I played it maybe 2 or 3 times in a row on Vita just because I got really, really into wanting to do it as fast as possible. But I never played Resident Evil 2, which again, I feel like a lot of people, as far as the PlayStation 1 Resident Evils, people will either go back and forth between Resident Evil 1 and 2 because I think people like the updates that Resident Evil 2 had. People like Leon Kennedy, but that I feel like it's either the vibes of Resident Evil 2 or that people love the mansion of Resident Evil 1, just becoming so intimate with the space of the mansion in Resident Evil 1 is what people really gravitate toward. So I'd like to know what the other half of that whole equation is and play Resident Evil 2. But also, I still haven't played the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I love. I love Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil 4, obviously one of my favorite games of all time. Never played Resident Evil 2 remake, so I don't know if maybe I should play the PS1 Resident Evil 2 first, then play Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't know. We'll see. And then a very recent release that I feel like I've seen some of the people that I trust their opinions online have been talking about is very good, is this new indie game called Mouthwashing, which it's a very narrative heavy game about people in a spacecraft that is drifting through space, and there's this mouthwash drink that everyone drinks and it makes them go crazy and see things. I don't know. It looks wild. The style of it is very that kind of lo-fi PS1 polygonal style, but just the aesthetics look really meaty and gross in places. I don't know. Mouthwashing. It looks crazy, but that's the stuff that I'm hoping to get to in the Halloween seasons. Let me know. Go in the Discord, in the Squared Circle Strafe, section channel of the server, and let me know if you got any spooky plans for this Halloween season. Maybe tell me what some of your favorite horror games of all time are. Maybe I'll check them out. Who can say? There's some spooky games coming up as well. I know that that Quiet Place video game is supposed to be coming out next month, or this upcoming month. There's that twin stick shooter melee game, Kill Knight, that looks pretty spooky. That's a cool looking indie game. Of course, the Silent Hill 2 remake, which I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna have to wait for the reviews for that one to come out before maybe I consider picking that up. I don't know. It's just the Bloober team of it all. The developer behind that Bloober team just really, it makes me very nervous about the quality of that remake. But yeah, I guess are there not really? Oh, there's an indie survival horror called Post Trauma that I thought looked kind of neat. That's also coming out. Fear the Spotlight, coming out October 22nd, which is the first game that is coming from Blumhouse. They're the indie. I think I talked about this earlier this episode. The Blumhouse is getting into video game publishing, and Fear the Spotlight is First one of those, again, a lo-fi PlayStation 1 polygonal style, which I feel like is really in vogue these days, but I have a lot of nostalgia for that era, so it really works for me. But yeah, horror games. It's the season to play them. But I think that is going to be it for this week. Thank you so much for listening to Squared Circle Strafe. Leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. You can follow me at twitter.com@usingneon. If you want to catch more of me talking about some real nerdy stuff, you can follow the Didn't Get All of It podcast to hear me and the rest of the Fatal 4 hosts talk about the latest and greatest in professional wrestling. You can also sign up for our Patreon to get exclusive access to our Discord, as well as bonus content like the Squared Circle Strafe multiplayer episode that just hit our $5 tier, Fatal 4 Plus, where I talked to Paul Griffin about Star Wars Outlaws and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and all sorts of Ubisoft stuff. And along with all that, you get the satisfaction of supporting independent podcasting media. Head to patreon.com/fatal4pod. That's Fatal, F-O-U-R, pod. Thank you again for listening, and as always, enjoy your gaming.